The black waitress stumbled into the bar, bruised and terrified, begging the bikers to hide her from her husband. They agreed to help until her bag accidentally spilled open. What fell out changed everything, and now they were all in danger. The gravel crunched under Keisha's scuffed boots as she stumbled toward the neon sign that buzzed in the darkness. Rusty's Roadhouse, it read, half the letters flickering like they were gasping for their last breath. Her ribs screamed with every step, and the purple bruise spreading across her left cheekbone throbbed in rhythm with her racing heart. She shouldn't be here. She knew that this wasn't the kind of place a big city waitress walked into at 2 a.m. on a Friday night. But the club was 30 miles behind her. Her car had died 2 windward back, and the headlight she'd seen in her rear-view mirror meant she was out of options. In a push through the heavy steel door, and the smell hit her first. Leather, motor oil, cigarette smoke, and something else. Something dangerous. The conversations died like someone had cut the power. 8 pairs of eyes turned toward her, and none of them looked friendly. The man behind the bar was built like a refrigerator with a beard. His arms were covered in tattoos that seemed to move in the dim light. A woman with short silver hair sat at the corner table, a knife resting casually beside her beer bottle. 3 men in leather vests bearing a skull logo leaned against the pool table. Sticks, frozen mid-game. "We're closed," the bartender growled. Keisha's voice came out smaller than she intended. "Please, I need help. Lady, you lost." The woman with silver hair stood up slowly, her hand drifting towards the knife. "Because this ain't the highway patrol station. I know what this is." Keisha's voice cracked. She took another step inside, and that's when they saw it. The blood on her black uniform, the way she held her left arm against her ribs, the fresh cut above her eyebrow, still weeping red. "I need you to hide me, just for tonight, please." The bartender's expression didn't change. "Hide you from what?" "From my husband." One of the men by the pool table laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Domestic dispute." "Call the cops, sweetheart. We ain't a shelter. The cops won't help." Keisha's eyes darted to the window, then back. "He'll find me there. He always finds me, but he won't come here. Men like him don't come to places like this." The silver-haired woman studied her for a long moment. Men like what? Keisha opened her mouth to answer, but headlights swept across the window. She gasped and stumbled backward, her bag slipping from her shoulder and hitting the floor with a heavy thud that seemed too loud for just a purse. "He's here," she whispered. "Oh God, he's here." The bartender moved fast for a big man. He came around the bar and grabbed Keisha's arm, pulling her toward a back hallway. "Tank, Dutch, windows. Razor, kill those backlights. Move." The bikers shifted into action like a well-oiled machine. The woman Razor apparently hit switches, plunging the back half of the bar into darkness. 2 men took positions near the windows, and Keisha found herself shoved into a storage room that smelled like beer and motor oil. "Stay quiet," the bartender ordered. "Don't move. Don't breathe loud. We'll handle this." Through the crack in the door, Keisha watched as a black SUV pulled into the gravel lot. Her whole body began to shake. She knew that vehicle. She'd ridden in it 1,000 times back when she still believed his promises about changing. A car door slammed, footsteps on gravel, then the bar door opened. "Evening, gentlemen, lady." The voice was smooth, educated, nothing like the rough draws of the bikers. "Sorry to disturb your night. I'm looking for my wife." Keisha couldn't see him from her hiding spot, but she could picture him perfectly. The expensive jacket, the practiced smile that never reaches eyes. The way he'd be scanning the room like a predator counting sheep. "Ain't seen no wife," the bartender said flatly. "Like I told the lady who just left. We're closed." "A lady just left?" interest sharp in his tone. What did she look like? Black, curvy, crying about something. Headed east on foot about 10 minutes ago. There was a pause. Keisha held her breath so hard her lungs burnt. She pressed herself against the wall, praying the shadows would swallow her whole. My wife is black hair, he said slowly, and she's terrified of the dark. She wouldn't be walking anywhere alone at night. Then I guess it wasn't your wife. Razor's voice cut through the tension like a blade. You got a problem with that, friend? Another pause. Longer this time. Keisha could feel his mind working, calculating odds, weighing risks. He was smart, too smart. That's what made him so dangerous. No problem at all, he finally said. But if you do see a woman, black hair, about 5'4", wearing a black Waitress uniform, I'd appreciate a call. She's not well. Needs her medication, he paused. There's $500 in it for whoever helps me find her. We'll keep an eye out, the bartender said. Have a good night. The door closed. The SUV's engine rumbled to life, but didn't leave. Keisha watched through the crack as the headlights stayed on, illuminating the gravel lot. He was waiting, testing them, seeing if anyone would crack. 5 minutes passed, like 5 hours. Finally, the SUV pulled away, gravel crunching under its tires as it disappeared into the night. The storage room door opened. The bartender filled the doorway, his expression unreadable in the shadows. He's gone for now. Keisha's legs gave out. She slid down the wall, landing hard on the concrete floor. Thank you, God. Thank you. Don't thank us yet. Razor appeared behind the bartender, and her eyes were cold. Because you're going to tell us the truth now. All of it, starting with why your bag weighs like it's full of bricks and why your husband offered $500 for information. Keisha looked down at her bag, still lying where it had fallen in the main room. In the scuffle, the zipper had come part-way open. Even from the storage room, she could see what they'd see. The edge of bundled cash, rubber-banded and thick. Her secret was out. And suddenly, hiding from her husband seemed like the least of her problems. The bartender's eyes narrowed. Lady, what the hell did you bring into my bar? The bartender dragged Keisha's bag across the floor with his boot, never taking his eyes off her. The sound of canvas scraping against wood made her flinch. She wanted to grab it to stuff everything back inside before they could see, but her body wouldn't move. Tank, the bartender called out. Lock that door. Nobody comes in. Nobody goes out. A massive man with a scar running down his neck turned the deadbolt with a click that sounded like a prison cell closing. Keisha's heart hammered against her bruised ribs. Razor crouched down and picked up the bag with 2 fingers like it might explode. She carried it to the pool table and dumped it out. The contents spilled across the green felt like evidence at a crime scene. Bundles of cash, dozens of them rubber-banded in neat stacks. They scattered across the table, some sliding onto the floor, but it was what fell out last that made everyone freeze. A compact Glock 19, black and deadly, clattered onto the table. Jesus Christ, Dutch whispered from near the window. Razor picked up one of the cash bundles, thumbing through it. These are hundreds, all of them. She grabbed another stack, then another. Her silver eyes lifted to Keisha. How much is here? Keisha's voice barely worked. 40,000, maybe 45. The room went so quiet. Keisha could hear the neon sign buzzing outside. The biker stared at her like she'd just sprouted a second head. The bartender, whose patch read Boone in faded letters, stepped forward. His shadow fell across, and unlike a threat. You want to try that story again about running from your husband because he hits you? He does hit me. Keisha's voice cracked. Look at my face, look at my ribs. Oh, I'm looking, Boone said quietly. I'm also looking at enough cash to buy 3 bikes and a gun that says this ain't about a few slaps. So, you've got 30 seconds to tell me what you really brought to my door, or I'm calling your husband myself and letting him know exactly where you are. You can't. 25 seconds. And I looked around the room. Every face was hard. These weren't people who rescued stray puppies or believed in fairy tales. They lived in a world where trust got you killed and stupid got you buried. She had no choice. Not anymore. The money's his, she said quickly. My husband's. I stole it from a safe in our basement. She swallowed hard. And the gun is for protection from him and from the people he works with. Tank crossed his massive arms. What people? Keisha's hands shook as she pushed herself up from the floor. I didn't know at first. I thought he just worked long hours at the precinct, but 3 months ago, I found the safe. It was hidden behind a false wall in the basement, and I only found it because the washing machine leaked and the water made the panel come loose. The precinct? Razor's eyes narrowed. What precinct? He's a cop. The words tasted like poison. Detective Marcus Webb. 15 years on the force. Everyone thinks he's a hero. Boone's jaw tightened. A cop. But he's not just a cop. Keisha wrapped her arms around herself. The safe had cash like this. Stacks and stacks of it. And there were ledgers, names, dates, amounts. I didn't understand what I was looking at. Not at first. But then I saw the same names in the news. Arrests, seizures, dealers walking free on technicalities. Her voice dropped to a whisper. He's laundering money for the cartel. Dutch laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. Lady, do you have any idea what you just told us? What you brought here? I know. Tears burned in her eyes. I know, okay, but I couldn't stay. 2 weeks ago, I heard him on the phone in his office. He thought I was asleep, but I was standing right outside the door. He told someone that there was a loose end that needed to be handled permanently. And when he hung up, he looked at our wedding photo on his desk for a long time. Her voice broke. I'm a loose end. The bikers exchanged glances. Keisha could see the calculation happening behind their eyes. The risk versus reward. The danger versus the morality of throwing her back to the wolves. So, you grabbed the cash and ran? Boone said flatly. I waited until he went to work today. I took what I could carry and I ran. Keisha gestured to the money. I thought if I had enough, I could disappear. New identity, new life. Somewhere he'd never find me. Razor walked around the pool table, her boots heavy on the wooden floor. That gun loaded? Keisha nodded. You know how to use it? I've been learning YouTube videos. I'm not good, but I can pull the trigger if I have to. Boone rubbed his face with both hands. When he looked up, his expression was caught between anger and something that might have been pity. You've just made us accessories to theft from a dirty cop with cartel connections. You understand that? I didn't mean to. What you meant doesn't matter. He pointed at the door. You brought a war to my doorstep. Before Keisha could respond, headlights swept across the windows again. But this time they didn't pass. This time they stopped, and the engine cut off with a finality that made Keisha's stomach drop. He came back, she whispered. Boone moved fast. Everyone stay calm. Tank Dutch, same positions. Razor, get her in the back office, not the storage room. He might search it this time. He grabbed the cash and gun off the pool table, shoving them back in Keisha's bag. Take this. If things go sideways, there's a window in the office that leads to the alley. You run, and you don't look back. Understand? Keisha nodded, clutching the bag to her chest as Razor pulled her down the hallway. Behind them, she heard Boone's low voice. Remember, we haven't seen her. We don't know her. She's nobody to us. The office was small and cluttered with invoices, motorcycle parts, and empty beer bottles. Razor shoved her toward the corner behind a filing cabinet. Stay down. Stay quiet. Breathe through your nose. Through the thin walls, Keisha heard the bar door open. But this time, Marcus didn't come alone. "Good evening again, gentlemen." Marcus's voice was colder now, the false politeness stripped away. "I apologize for the intrusion, but I'm going to need to take a look around." "Even a warrant?" Boone's tone was ice. "I don't need a warrant. I'm conducting a wellness check on a missing person." A pause. "My wife has a medical condition. She's a danger to herself and others when she doesn't take her medication. I have every legal right to search any establishment where she might be hiding." Keisha pressed her hand over her mouth. He was good. He always knew exactly what to say to make himself sound reasonable, concerned, justified. "Funny thing about that," Boone said slowly. "You didn't mention any medical condition the first time. You just said she was your wife." "I was trying to be discreet, but discretion isn't working, is it?" Footsteps moved across the floor. "So, let's try honesty instead. My wife stole something from me, something valuable, and I want it back." "There it is," Razor muttered beside Keisha. "The truth, like I said before, we haven't seen anyone." Boone's voice didn't waver. "But even if we had, sounds like a civil matter between husband and wife." "Not my business? Oh, it's very much your business now." "Business." Something metallic clicked. A sound Keisha knew too well. He'd drawn his service weapon because harboring a fugitive is a felony, aiding and abetting theft is a felony, and obstructing a police investigation is a felony. So unless you want me to shut this place down and arrest every person in here, I suggest you cooperate. And I heard chairs scraping. The bikers were standing up, spreading out. The tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. "You're pointing a gun at civilians in a private establishment," Boone said, his voice deadly quiet. "That badge doesn't make you God. And threatening us was a mistake." "Was it?" Marcus laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You think I came alone this time?" That's when Keisha heard them, more footsteps outside, car doors opening, at least 3, maybe 4. Through the office window, she saw shadows moving in the parking lot. Men in dark clothing spreading out around the building. Razor swore under a breath. He brought backup. "I have 6 officers surrounding this building," Marcus called out. "Every exit is covered. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to bring me my wife, and I'm going to forget I ever came here. Or I'm going to come back with a tactical team and tear this place apart brick by brick. Your choice." Keisha's whole body was shaking. She'd underestimated him again. She always underestimated him, and that's how he kept winning. But then Boone did something unexpected. He laughed. "6 officers, huh?" At 2:30 a.m. on a Friday night for a domestic wellness check. His boots moved across the floor. "See? That's interesting because I've got a buddy who works dispatch, and I'm betting if I called him right now, he'd tell me there's no official call-out tonight. No APB, no missing person report, nothing." Silence. Marcus hadn't expected that. "So, let's talk about what's really happening here," Boone continued. "You're a dirty cop looking for something you can't report stolen because you got it illegally in the first place. And those guys outside, they're not officers, they're thugs, which means you've got no authority here. You're just another criminal trying to bully his way into getting what he wants." "You're making a very dangerous enemy," Marcus said softly. "Join the club. We collect them." More silence. Then Marcus's voice, low and venomous. "This isn't over. When I find her, and I will find her, I'm going to remember every face in this room, every single one, and you're going to wish you'd cooperated." The door slammed. Engine started. Headlights swept across the walls as the vehicles pulled away, gravel spraying under tires. But this time, Keisha knew he wasn't bluffing about coming back. Razor pulled her up from behind the filing cabinet. "Come on, we need to move you before he regroups." Keisha followed her back into the main room, where the biker stood in a tight circle around Boone. Every face was grim. Tank broke the silence. "We just went to war with the cop and the cartel." Boone looked at Keisha, his eyes hard as stone. Yeah, we did. The Starlight Inn was the kind of place that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Peeling paint, flickering vacancy sign, and a clerk who barely looked up from his phone when Razor paid cash for room 12. Keisha sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the stained carpet while the bikers filled the small room. Boone leaned against the door, arms crossed. Tank blocked the bathroom window. Dutch and Razor flanked her like guards. There was nowhere to run now. "Talk," Boone said, "and this time I want everything. No more pieces, no more half-truths." Keisha's hands twisted in her lap. "I told you everything." Bull Razor stepped forward. "You told us your husband's dirty and you stole his money, but you're leaving something out, something big." She pointed at the bag on the nightstand. "That much cash is bait. Nobody runs with just money when they've got a dirty cop and a cartel after them. So, what else is in that bag?" Keisha's eyes darted to the bag, and that split-second hesitation told them everything. Tank moved fast for a big man. He grabbed the bag and dumped it on the bed again. The cash scattered, but this time he didn't stop there. He felt along the lining, found the seam, and ripped. A small USB drive fell out, wrapped in plastic. The room went dead silent. "What is that?" Boone's voice was quiet. "Dangerous." Keisha stared at the drive like it was a live grenade. It's why he'll never stop looking for me." Razor picked it up, holding it to the light. "What's on it?" "Everything." Keisha's voice cracked. Bank accounts, wire transfers, names of cartel members he's protected, names of officers he's bribed, dates of every shipment he's helped move through the city for the past 3 years. She looked up, and her eyes were hollow. And videos, security footage from his office, him counting money, him meeting with cartel leaders, him, her voice broke, him killing a federal informant in our garage. The words hung in the air like smoke. "Jesus Christ," Dutch breathed. "That's not all," Keisha continued, the words spilling out now like she'd been holding them in too long. "2 months ago, I found out I was pregnant." Boone's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "I was so stupid. I thought maybe it would change things. Maybe he'd become the man I married." She laughed, but it sounded like breaking glass. "I told him over dinner." "And you know what he said?" "He said it was perfect timing, that in a few months there'd be an accident, a car crash, maybe, or a home invasion, his pregnant wife tragically killed. He'd be the grieving widower above suspicion, and the loose end, me and everything I'd seen, would be permanently handled." "Where's the baby now?" Razor's voice was softer than before. "There is no baby." Keisha's hand moved to her stomach. "I lost it 3 weeks ago. The stress, the beatings, I don't know. But when it happened, I realized I was free. Not free to stay, but free to run without worrying about protecting anyone but myself." Tank sat down heavily on the room's only chair, which creaked under his weight. "So you copied his files, stole his cash, and ran." "He had a meeting last Wednesday. I knew I had 4 hours. I found the safe code in his office. He'd written it in a notebook." "Can you believe that? All that careful planning? And he wrote the code down like a grocery list." She gestured to the drive. "I copied everything from his computer, took as much cash as I could carry, and walked out. I didn't even pack clothes. I just drove." "Why didn't you go to the FBI?" Boone asked, turned him in. Keisha's laugh was bitter. "You think I didn't try?" "I called the FBI field office from a gas station payphone. Told them I had evidence of corruption. You know what they said? They need me to come in for an interview, give a statement, wait while they verified my identity." She shook her head. "Marcus's friends everywhere. The second I walked into that building, I'd be dead. They'd find my body and call it suicide, and the evidence would disappear." "So, what's your plan?" Razor asked. Run forever. He's got resources connections. He'll find you eventually. I know Keisha's voice was small. I was going to try to get to Canada, disappear across the border, but my car died, and then he was right behind me and she looked around at them. I didn't mean to drag you into this. I swear I didn't. I just needed to hide for one night. Boone pushed off from the door and paced the small room. This drive, it's real. It would actually put him away. It would put him and 20 other people away, maybe more. There are state senators on there, judges. It's not just Marcus. It's the whole network. Dutch whistled low. That's why the cartel wants you dead. You're not just a witness. You're an extinction-level event for their entire operation. Yeah. Keisha's voice was barely a whisper. I am. Boone stopped pacing and looked at each of his crew in turn. Some silent conversation happened between them, the kind that comes from years of riding together, bleeding together, surviving together. Finally, he turned to Keisha. You're not going to Canada? Her heart sank. You're turning me in. No. His jaw was set. We're taking you to the FBI. The real FBI. Federal building in St. Louis. But we're doing it our way on our terms where nobody can get to you first. They left the motel at 7 a.m. when the world was still dark and the highways were empty. 3 bikes, Boone leading on his black Harley tank and Dutch flanking him. Razor rode behind with Keisha holding tight to her waist, the bag with the drive and money strapped across Keisha's chest like armor. The plan was simple. Take back roads to St. Louis, stay off the main highways, and reach the federal building by noon. In and out before Marcus could mobilize his people, but plans had a way of falling apart. They'd been riding for 2 hours when Boone's hand went up, the signal to slow down. Ahead, on the empty stretch of Route 34, a pickup truck sat sideways across both lanes. 2 men stood beside it, and even from a distance, Keisha could see they weren't stranded motorists. It's a trap, Razor said into Keisha's ear, her voice barely audible over the engine. Hold on. Boone gunned his throttle, the bike roaring as he aimed for the narrow shoulder. The others followed, engine screaming. But as they approached, the pickup's bed suddenly filled with men, 4 of them rising up with weapons. Down! Razor screamed. Gunfire shattered the morning quiet. Bullets pinged off the asphalt, sparking in the gray light. Keisha pressed herself against Razor's back, feeling the bike swerve violently ahead. Boone's rear tire exploded and his bike went into a skid, sparks flying as metal scraped pavement. He went down hard, the bike sliding out from under him. Tank stopped to grab him, hauling him onto the back of his bike. Dutch laid down covering fire with a pistol he'd pulled from his jacket. 3 quick shots that sent the men in the truck diving for cover. But more were coming. 2 black SUVs roared up from behind, hemming them in. Keisha's breath caught. They were boxed in on a straight stretch of empty highway with nowhere to hide. Off the road, Boone yelled, pointing to a dirt path that disappeared into the woods. Razor twisted the throttle, and the bike lurched off the pavement, bouncing over the rough terrain. Branches whipped at Keisha's arms as they plunged into the forest, the other bikes right behind them. Behind them, engines roared as the SUVs followed. But the SUVs were too wide for the narrow path. Keisha heard the crunch of metal on trees, angry shouts, and then gunfire again. Wild shots that went wide as the vehicle struggled to navigate the terrain. The bikes had the advantage here. They wove between trees, jumped over roots, and carved through the undergrowth like they were made for it. Gradually, the sound of pursuit faded. They emerged on an old logging road and didn't stop until they'd put 5 miles between themselves and the ambush site. Boone's bike was gone, left broken on the highway. His leather jacket was torn, blood seeping through the sleeve. How bad? Razor asked as they gathered in a clearing. I'll live, Boone winced as Tank examined the road rash on his arm. But someone tell me how they knew exactly where we'd be. Keisha's stomach turned to ice. They couldn't have known. We didn't tell anyone. Exactly. Dutch was staring at his phone. We didn't tell anyone. So, how do they set up an ambush on the exact road we took? Razor's eyes narrowed. Unless they're tracking us. Everyone's hands went to their phones, but Tank held up his. Wait, not the phones. His gaze locked on Keisha. The money! Keisha clutched the bag tighter. What? The cash. Your husband's a cop. A paranoid one. Tank reached for the bag. Let me see it. With shaking hands, Keisha handed it over. Tank dumped out the bundles and started examining them one by one, feeling along the edges, checking the rubber bands. On the 7th stack, he stopped. There, he peeled back the rubber band to reveal a small black disc, no bigger than a quarter, pressed between 200 bills. GPS tracker, military grade, the realization hit them all at once. He's been following the money the whole time, Boone said quietly. He knew exactly when we left the motel, which direction we went, how fast we were moving, which means he knows where we are right now, Dutch added as if on cue. Engines rumbled in the distance, multiple vehicles closing in fast. Boone snatched the tracker and the cash bundle from Tank's hands. Without hesitation, he sprinted back toward the logging road. 30 seconds later, a commercial lumber truck appeared, heading west. Boone threw the tracked bundle into its open bed as it passed. That'll buy us an hour, he said, jogging back. Maybe less. They'll figure it out eventually. We need a new plan, Razor said. St. Louis is too far. They'll have people waiting at every federal building between here and there. Keisha's mind was racing. Marcus had always been 3 steps ahead. Always. But there was one thing he didn't know. One piece of information she'd kept even from the bikers. There's another option, she said slowly, but it's risky, riskier than this. Tank gestured to the blood on Boone's arm, the destroyed bike, the sound of approaching vehicles. Keisha pulled the USB drive from the hidden pocket in her waistband, not the bag where they'd all seen her put it. This was a second drive, identical to the first. Razor's eyes widened. You made a copy. I made 3, Keisha admitted. 1 in the bag, they just followed. 1 in my pocket and 1 I mailed to a P.O. box in Omaha 2 days before I ran. Boone stared at her with something between admiration and fury. You've been playing us. I've been surviving, Keisha shot back. And right now, survival means we don't go to St. Louis. We go to Omaha, we get the 3rd drive, and we make sure that even if Marcus kills me, even if he kills all of us, the truth still gets out. The engines were getting closer. They had maybe 5 minutes before the cartel thugs found them. Boone looked at his crew. Tank's jaw was set. Dutch nodded slowly. Razor just shrugged. Omaha it is. Boone said, But lady, if you're hiding anything else, now's the time to come clean. Keisha met his gaze. That's everything. I swear she was lying. But they didn't need to know about the 4th drive yet. They never made it to Omaha. The cartel had eyes everywhere, and word traveled fast. By the time they ditched the bikes at a truck stop outside Lincoln and hot-wired a delivery van, Marcus had figured out the tracker trick. More importantly, he'd figured out Keisha's pattern. The warehouse sat on the outskirts of an abandoned industrial park, rusted and forgotten. It was the address on the P.O. box. Keisha had been forced to use a remailing service that operated out of a fake business. She thought she was being clever. Marcus had thought 3 steps ahead. They knew something was wrong the moment they pulled up. The building was too quiet. No wind, no birds, nothing. Just oppressive silence that made Keisha's skin crawl. It's a trap, Razor said flatly. Of course it's a trap. Boone checked his pistol, the only weapon they had left after the highway ambush. But we're out of options. That drive is our only leverage. Keisha stared at the warehouse doors. We could leave. Find another way. There is no other way, Dutch said. We've got the cartel behind us. Dirty cops in front of us and 2 drives that are useless without the 3rd. We either go in and get it or we're dead by sunset. Tank cracked his knuckles. Then let's get it over with. They moved as a unit, Boone leading with the gun, the others fanning out behind him. The warehouse door was unlocked. Another bad sign. Inside, the space was cavernous and dark, filled with empty shipping containers and forgotten machinery that cast twisted shadows in the dim light filtering through broken windows. And a voice echoed from somewhere deep in the warehouse. Marcus, I know you're here. I know they're with you. And I know what you came for. Boone raised his weapon, scanning the shadows. I'll make this simple, Marcus continued. You have something I need. I have something you want. Let's make a trade. What could you possibly have that we want? Keisha called out, her voice shaking. Your freedom, your lives. Walk away now. Leave the drives and I'll forget this ever happened. The bikers go back to their bar. You disappear wherever you'd like, and everyone lives. Razor laughed harshly. You really think we're that stupid? I think you're desperate, and desperate people make deals. Movement in the shadows. At least 6 men, maybe more, surrounding them from multiple positions. The bikers pressed together, backs to each other, suddenly very aware of how outnumbered they were. Then Marcus stepped into view, gun drawn, but pointed at the ground. He looked exactly like Keisha had described. Handsome, composed, every inch the decorated detective. Behind him, 3 men in tactical gear held assault rifles. Hello, Keisha, he said softly. You've led me on quite a chase. Keisha's whole body trembled, but she forced herself to stand straight. You were going to kill me only because you left me no choice. He spread his hands like this was all very reasonable. You stole from people who don't forgive theft. You made this personal when it was only ever business. You murdered a federal informant in our garage. You planned to fake my death. I protected my investment. Our investment. His voice hardened. That money built our house, paid for your car, kept you in comfortable ignorance while I did the dirty work. You benefited just as much as I did. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Marcus cut her off. But you knew something was off. You knew and you didn't ask questions because the life was too good. He took a step closer. So don't stand there pretending to be some innocent victim. You were complicit the moment you accepted the first gift bought with dirty money. The words hit Keisha like a physical blow because somewhere buried deep, there was a grain of truth to them. She'd known something was wrong. She'd just been too scared to look. Boone raised his gun, aiming at Marcus's chest. Enough talk. You want the drives? Come take them. Marcus didn't flinch. You're holding 1 gun against 6. The odds aren't in your favor, friend. Maybe not. But I guarantee I'll put a bullet in you before your boys can put one in me. You willing to bet your life on their reaction time? For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Marcus's face. He was a man who controlled every situation, who always had the upper hand. Being threatened wasn't part of his script. There's another option, Keisha said suddenly. Her hand moved to the bag, pulling out not 1 drive, but 2. You want these? Here's the deal. You let them go. She pointed to the bikers. All of them walk out of here alive. In exchange, I give you both drives, and I stay. Keisha. No, Razor started. It's not your choice, Keisha said, her voice steady for the first time in days. This was always between him and me. Marcus studied her, calculating both drives. How do I know there aren't more? Because I'm tired of running, Keisha said. I'm tired of being afraid. You want to kill me? Fine. But these people don't die because I drag them into my mess. She held up the drives. But here's the thing you don't know, Marcus. These aren't the only copies. There's a third drive, and it's already in the hands of a lawyer with instructions to send it to every news outlet in the country if I don't check in by midnight tonight. It was a bluff. A complete, desperate bluff. Marcus's eyes narrowed. You're lying. Am I? Keisha's smile was cold. You taught me well, husband. Always have a backup plan. Always stay 3 steps ahead. So yes, there's a third drive, and the only way you stop it from going public is if I make that call tonight, alive and free. The silence stretched like a wire ready to snap. Then Keisha said the words that changed everything. Or you could just take these 2 drives. Let's all walk away and hope I'm bluffing. Your choice. But you've got 10 seconds to decide before I smash them both on the concrete. Marcus's face went pale. For the first time since Keisha had known him, he looked genuinely rattled. You would not. Keisha held the drives over a patch of concrete, studded with metal bolts. I've got nothing left to lose, Marcus. You made sure of that. If you destroy those drives, you lose your only leverage. The cartel will hunt you forever. Then I guess we all lose. Keisha's hand trembled, but her voice stayed firm. 10 seconds. 9-8 in. Wait. Marcus raised his hand and his men lowered their weapons slightly. Let's talk about this rationally. 7-6. Keisha, go damn it, listen to me. 5-4. I'll let the bikers go. The words burst out of him. They walk out right now, but you stay and we talk. Figure this out like adults. Keisha paused at 3. Not good enough. We all walk together and I make my call tonight from wherever I choose. Then maybe I tell you where the third drive is. Marcus's jaw clenched. She could see his mind working, weighing options, calculating odds. He'd built an empire on staying calm under pressure, but she just flipped the entire board. Boss, one of the tactical guys muttered, we can take them. She's bluffing. Shut up, Marcus snapped. His eyes never left Keisha. If there's a third drive and it goes public, we're all dead. Not just me, everyone in the network, judges, senators, your family. He took a step forward, including your mother in that nursing home in Wichita. You remember her, don't you? With the Alzheimer's. Such a nice facility. Will be a shame if something happened. The gunshot cracked through the warehouse like thunder. Marcus stumbled backward, clutching his shoulder. Blood seeped between his fingers as he stared at Boone in shock. The biker's gun was still raised, smoke curling from the barrel. You just threatened a confused old woman, Boone said quietly. That was a mistake. Chaos erupted. The tactical guys raised their weapons, but Tank was already moving. He grabbed a rusty chain hanging from the ceiling and swung it like a medieval flail, catching one guy across the face. Dutch tackled another, and they went down in a tangle of limbs. Run! Razor screamed at Keisha, pulling her toward the back exit. But Keisha's eyes were locked on Marcus, who'd drawn his backup piece. Despite the blood pouring from his shoulder, he was aiming at Boone, finger tightening on the trigger. Without thinking, Keisha threw one of the drives. It hit Marcus in the face, shattering into pieces of plastic and circuitry. His shot went wild, pinging off a metal beam. That was a dummy drive, Keisha shouted. The real ones are already gone. It was the truth. The 2 drives she'd been holding were blank decoys she'd prepared in case of exactly this situation. The real second drive was taped under the seat of the stolen van outside. Marcus's face contorted with rage and pain. Tank's fist connected with his jaw, and Marcus went down hard. Move, move, move. Boone was herding them toward the exit as more gunfire erupted. One of the cartel men had called for backup. Keisha could see more vehicles pulling up outside through the broken windows. They burst through the rear exit into blinding sunlight. The van was 50 yards away across an empty lot, but it might as well have been a mile. Bullets kicked up dirt around their feet as they ran. Tank went down first, clutching his leg. Go. I'll slow them down like hell. Boone doubled back, hauling the big man up and half-carrying him toward the van. Razor reached it first, yanking open the driver's door. Keys. Where are the keys? Here. Dutch tossed them from 10 yards away. They sailed through the air in slow motion, and Razor caught them one-handed. The engine roared to life as they piled in. Bullets punched through the thin metal sides, and Keisha felt one pass so close to her head, she felt the wind of it. Dutch was bleeding from somewhere. Tank was cursing steadily, and Boone's earlier road rash had reopened, but they were alive. Razor floored it, the van fishtailing as they tore across the lot toward the access road. Behind them, the warehouse was swarming with men, but they were too late. "Where to?" Razor shouted over the screaming engine. Keisha pulled out her phone, a burner she bought at the truck stop. Federal Building, St. Louis, but not the front entrance. She pulled up a contact she'd programmed 2 days ago, when she was still pretending she might survive this. "I know someone, an agent. She owes me a favor from before Marcus turned bad. If we can reach her, she can get us in through a secure entrance." She dialed. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. "Pick up, pick up, pick up," Keisha whispered. On the 4th ring, a woman's voice answered. "This is Special Agent Sarah Chen. It's Keisha Webb. Remember me? I need your help. I'm coming in and I'm bringing everything, but Marcus is going to try to stop me, and I need Keisha." "Slow down. Coming in where?" "St. Louis Federal Building. I have evidence, corruption, money laundering, murder, but I need protection, real protection. Can you do that?" A pause. "Then how soon can you be here?" 2 hours, maybe less. Come to the underground parking garage, level 3, section C. I'll have a team waiting. And Keisha, don't stop for anything. If Marcus knows you're coming, he'll have every dirty cop between here and there trying to stop you." The call ended. Boone looked at Keisha through the rear-view mirror. "You trust her?" "I don't trust anyone anymore," Keisha admitted. "But she's the only shot we've got." The ambush came on Highway 70, 15 miles outside St. Louis. 2 police cruisers pulled them over, lights flashing. But Keisha had learned to read the signs, the way they blocked both lanes, the way the officers approached with hands already on their weapons, the way neither of them called in on the radio. "Marcus's people," Boone said flatly. "What do we do?" Dutch's voice was tight with pain. His makeshift bandage soaked through. Keisha made a decision. She grabbed the real drive from under the seat and tucked into her bra. Then she pulled out her phone and started a video recording, propping it on the dashboard. "We give them a show," she said. When the first officer reached the window, Keisha was ready. She rolled it down, hands visible, and spoke clearly toward the phone's camera. "Officer, can you tell me your badge number and which department you're with?" The cop's eyes flicked to the phone. Hesitation crossed his face. Whatever Marcus had told him to do, it wouldn't work if it was being recorded and potentially live-streamed. "Ma'am, I need you to step out of the vehicle." "Of course. But first, for the record, can you tell me why we're being stopped?" "We weren't speeding." More hesitation. The second cop was walking around the van looking for an excuse. Finding none. "Routine check," the first cop said, but his voice lacked conviction. "I see. Well, I'm Keisha Webb, and I'm on my way to meet with Special Agent Sarah Chen of the FBI. She's expecting me in 45 minutes. If I'm late because of this stop, I'm sure she'll want to know why." Keisha smiled sweetly. "Would you like her contact number to verify?" The cops exchanged glances. This wasn't going the way Marcus had planned. They couldn't just shoot them. Not on camera. Not in broad daylight. Not when the FBI was expecting them. After a tense 30 seconds, the first cop stepped back. "Drive safely, ma'am." They let them pass. Razor let out a breath she'd been holding for a year. That was either brilliant or insane. Both, Keisha said, stopping the recording and immediately uploading it to a cloud service. Insurance policy. They made it to the federal building with 20 minutes to spare. Agent Chen was waiting in the underground garage with 4 armed agents, exactly as promised. She took one look at the bloodied, exhausted group and radioed for medical. "You look like hell," Sarah said, but her voice was kind. "You should see the other guys." Keisha pulled the drive from her bra and held it out. "Everything's on here. Bank accounts, names, dates, video evidence. Enough to put Marcus and 20 others away for life." Sarah took it carefully, like it was made of glass. "We'll need your full statement. All of you, it's going to be a long night. We got time," Boone said. "We're not going anywhere." The next 6 hours were a blur of debriefings, statements, and medical attention. Tank needed surgery for his leg. Dutch got 32 stitches. Boone's road rash was treated and bandaged properly. Razor had 3 cracked ribs she'd been hiding. Keisha sat in an interview room and told them everything. The abuse, the money, the murders, the cartel connections. She told them about the safe, the ledgers, the phone call that made her realize she was the loose end. She told them about the drives, all 3 of them, including the one still waiting in the Omaha P.O. box. When it was over, Sarah leaned back in her chair. "Marcus was picked up an hour ago trying to cross into Mexico. He's in custody. So are 12 others from the network. We've frozen 8 bank accounts totaling $47 million. Keisha felt numb. "Is it over? The arrests? Yes. The trials? Those will take years. But you're safe now. We'll put you in witness protection. New identity. New life." Rule. "No," Keisha said quietly. Sarah blinked. "No, I'm done hiding. I'm done running. I'm done being afraid." Keisha stood up, every muscle in her body screaming. "I'm going to testify in open court with my real name, and then I'm going to rebuild my life as myself, not as whoever you make me pretend to be." Keisha, the cartel. The cartel's network just got decapitated. Their money's frozen. Their cops are arrested, and their whole operation is collapsing. They've got bigger problems than one waitress. She headed for the door, then paused. "But I appreciate the offer." 3 weeks later, Keisha sat in a club 2 states away, serving drinks and taking orders. Different club, different city, but the same work, the same life. Except now she slept without nightmares. Now she didn't flinch at every slamming door. The bikers had gone back to Rusty's roadhouse. Tank was recovering. Dutch had new scars to add to his collection. Razor had replaced her knife with a bigger one. Boone had rebuilt his bike. Keisha had written them a letter thanking them for saving her life. She'd included an envelope with $5,000. All that remained after the FBI seized the stolen money as evidence. What she didn't mention was the 4th drive, the one she'd hidden in a safety deposit box before any of this started. The one with information about 3 senators, 2 judges, and a cartel leader Marcus had been too scared to name. The one that was her real insurance policy. She didn't know if she'd ever use it. Maybe she'd destroy it. Maybe she'd send it to the FBI anonymously. Or maybe she'd keep it just in case the cartel came looking for the waitress who'd brought down their empire. Keisha served a drink to a trucker and smiled. She'd survived her husband. She'd survived the cartel. She'd survived. And if they came for her again, she'd be ready because Keisha Webb was done being a victim. She'd learned from the best, from Marcus, from the bikers, from her own desperation, how to stay 3 steps ahead. The difference was she'd use those skills to protect herself, not hurt others. At least that's what she told herself as she felt the weight of the safety deposit box key in her pocket. Some secrets she'd learned were worth keeping, even from the people who'd saved your life.